Hello, everybody, and happy holidays. It is another edition of the Raptors 2K podcast brought to you by our friends at UberEats. I'm your boy, EE, aka Phil Visu. My man, Shane, is this way, right? Yeah, this way. Shane is here as well. I know we've been going for a little bit, but you know what? It's always a good time, especially during the holiday season, to catch up on everything. So, Shane, update us. What's the latest on your end, my friend?
Man, we're just hustling. Things are ramping up quickly at AMP. We've had a couple cool partnership things come to fruition and trying to
I've
close out the
seen.
year. Had a banger video last night. And yeah, but for you, I'm noticing a new streaming space. So you have moved or something.
Yeah, I mean, basically, my room is back there, and I was like, I don't want to be in there anymore. So I took here because this area is so big. Like, we just split. It was originally a gym area, so it's just like I just put the gym equipment over there, and I just took this for a streamer, and there's still plenty of room. It's like a ridiculously overspaced common area in the house, but it's good. It feels good. You know, I feel good to stream outside my room. I feel more motivated actually just being in kind of like an office setting or space, if you will. So if you see somebody walking by there, it's not a home invasion. Just got some roommates, just just lurking around. So don't worry about it.
You're not getting swatted.
Nah, not yet. Not
You
yet.
got any plans for the holidays? You gonna go back home? You gonna stay in Cali?
Well, let's see. For Thanksgiving, I didn't get to go home, but
I remember.
since my birthday just passed, I decided, you know
Happy
what?
belated. Sorry I missed that.
Appreciate. No, you're fine. Appreciate that, Shane. I decided to be smart. Let me just go ahead and go home. Okay, to just one, maybe be showered in gifts. Okay, and two, get some home cooking from mom because nothing beats that. So yes, I'll be going back to the East Coast to spend my holidays. I'm very excited for it.
Nice, nice. Yeah, we're also super stoked. We had obviously a couple of pandemics here and or a couple of pandemic Christmases here because if you're paying attention to what was going on, the Canadian government kept shutting us down. So I'm looking forward to having a real proper Christmas. You know, all the
Yep.
little nieces and nephews are getting to that age. It's super cute. They all know everything about Santa, and my sister and brother-in-law moved into a nice house down the street that we're going to be celebrating at. So I'm also looking forward to the holidays, and I'm going to go actually down to Florida for a little bit, spend some time at my aunt's place on the beach, which again, very much looking forward to. And then when we come back, we got a super secret AMP trip plan that I can't spill the
Uh-oh.
beans on just yet. But yeah, we're going to be taking the show on the road a little bit in January and hopefully banking some really awesome content there. So
If you
yeah,
end up in my area, make sure you give me a heads up because you know I'll pull up. You ain't even got to worry. You ain't got to think twice about that.
100%. I'll be honest. We were going to be there for something with the NFL, but the scheduling just didn't work out. So we're looking to postpone
Oh,
that and do
okay.
another thing. But yeah, we will undoubtedly be out there over the course of the year, this next year for sure. And we'll hit you up. We got to get you into a vid for sure.
That's what I'm talking about, baby. See right there, Shane, a man of the people. And you gotta appreciate that. But Shane, I think we can both agree the people, we gotta eat. We need
We
something.
got,
It's early in the morning. I don't have any fuel yet. I'm gonna hit my Uber Eats app and order me a Khris breakfast sandwich. It's a ham, egg, and cheese, a little bit of mayo
mm,
and sriracha from this local deli
mm.
called Donut Star, not too far. It's absolutely delicious. I'm already on it.
Well, we always keep it real and raw here, and I'm going to spare all of the key details because those would be inappropriate, to be quite frank. But I haven't eaten anything since yesterday. I went in for a little procedure yesterday, and it's funny. It's a little, I guess,
Go back.
coincidental that what you're eating is what I ate last. But when I got to the procedure room, the anesthesiologist who was going to put me under for the procedure confirmed I hadn't eaten anything all day. And I said, well, I ate something at 9 a.m., but well ahead of the 2 hour window that was communicated in like the pre-op PDF that the nurse had
Yeah.
sent. Turns out the nurse had made a typo. That was supposed to be 24 hours, not 2 hours before op. So now I found out I couldn't go under. So again, sparing all details as far as what the procedure was, I had to go through that without being put under. It's been a bit of a rough 24 hours. The recovery's not been great. Yeah, I have not eaten anything in a day. So I am looking forward to this. And
Yeah.
I think I'm becoming a bit of a repetitive broken record. And I'm not going to lie. We always try to, cast a real lens on what we're doing here on this pod, and my go-to, like probably every other order from Uber Eats here is like a half and half kind of chicken shawarma with salad and rice, and it's my absolute favorite. It's definitely loaded in calories, but like I said, right now I can feel my stomach grumbling, so I'm going to lock in for one of those because
When
it's
you
my
get that
favorite.
feeling of your stomach sucking up against your spine, it's time to put something in there. Okay, give it
Yeah,
something to work with, Shane.
for a guy whose metabolism's slowing down, like I was always really skinny as a kid, but as I gotten older, it's not quite so easy. Sometimes I like that feeling. It's like, okay, I'm gonna be, looking fit. But yeah, right now I am just hungry. I'm coming out of 24 hours of post-op recovery, and I'm excited to get some food calories in my system. Shout
Well,
out
there you
Uber Eats
have
and
it.
Raptors Uprising for always keeping us fed while we do this.
We do appreciate them, man, and the orders do tend to come fast. Mine never comes first, though. We still haven't figured that mystery out just quite yet.
That's
But
I know.
nonetheless, we have a very exciting show. We have a very exciting guest, actually. Coach Roy from the Raptors Uprising has decided to bless us and join us. And I'm really happy about that, too, Shane, because I've seen some power moves have been made via the NBA 2K League's Twitter. I've seen there's been some trades going on, and I'd like to kind of dissect his brain about what was the logic behind some of those. You know what I'm saying? Were you involved in those meetings?
Roy's been working, man. No, I'm at arm's length. Here and there, a couple of conversations along the way, but truly was removed from actual final decisions on all of that, and was kind of learning about things as the community was learning about things. Sometimes a little heads up here and there. Hey, we did the deal. It's going to come out in the next day or two. But no, yeah, Roy's been working. Definitely, love to hear his take on what he's trying to do next year with the roster, and for those just to kind of guess set it up for everybody listening. We really kind of bet the farm a little bit on last year's team, right? We got rid of this year's first in order to bring in
Yep.
Saint, and that was kind of like once we got Dimes and Kenny aligned around how they were, the positions they were going to play. Okay, we had Dimes at center. We're thinking Type is, capable of playing center at an elite level. If we move him to power forward, like it'd be awesome to see what kind of a threat he could be there. And then obviously, we had Kenny and we had a really high first round pick who we knew we were going to get another guard, and we were going to try to move Kenny to the 2 guard, which is a good fit for him.
Yep.
We were like, okay, well, all we have left to work with really is like a later pick for our lock, and lock being such an important position, or at least we felt it was heading into the season. We stepped up and moved this year's first to bring Saint in, and so yeah, Coach Roy came in. He didn't have a lot to really work with, to be honest, and he's made a ton of moves and now has a ton of picks stacked. And yeah, look forward to hearing what his plan is and catching up on how all that's gone down.
Well, there you go. Beautiful introduction. So, without further ado, let's bring in our guest for episode 15, Coach Roy, standing by. Go ahead and pop in on us. Roy, thank you so much for one, taking the time to be here. Really appreciate that. And two, of course, sharing some insight with us. Tell me, though, first, bro, how are you feeling during this holiday season? How's everything going for you?
Man, it's different for sure. Like being in Canada for the first time in 10 years. Like as we in the States, as you get to Thanksgiving, things start to slow down. And this is the
Yeah.
first year in my life that parents call me like Happy Thanksgiving, and I was like, "What? It's Thanksgiving today?" 'Cause
We're at work,
obviously,
Mom.
yeah. It's 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. I'm in the office. So
Yeah.
no, it's definitely a little different, but love it so far. Love Canada so far. Everyone's been great, taking care of me. So yeah, I've been
You
little
say that,
different
but you're
holiday
from here
season.
originally, right? You're from Oakville initially?
Yeah, so I'm from Oakville, and it's actually funny. The first phone call Shane and I ever had, completely by chance, was
It's gonna
last
bring
year
us
in
up there.
January, and I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, Shane, by the way, I'm from Oakville," and Shane had just moved to Oakville.
Yeah.
Um, and
Oakville.
yeah, from Oakville. I lived in Oakville from when I was 6 to 13. I moved to the States when I was 13, so a little bit
Okay.
of a homecoming, but first time in adult life that I've been like in Toronto. So many more condos, so much more development than I'm used to seeing. So it's been pretty cool.
Bustling city. Where in the US did you live from 13? Did you kind of move around or were you planted in one spot?
No, I was in Scarsdale, New York, so literally right outside New York City.
Okay.
Yeah, like 20 minutes, 18 miles outside the city. And then went to college in upstate New York at the University of Rochester, which is like literally 2 hours from Toronto.
Oh,
And
man, that's a hike. Yeah. At least
yeah,
from,
and
from the
then
city.
yeah, it's like a 6, 7 hour drive. And then right out of college, went straight to work for Dallas Mavericks and Mavs gaming last year. So um, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'm so as Phil alluded, we keep it real and raw, tell the true stories. I think that's, for those who listen, that's what they're listening for. So you brought up our first ever phone call conversation. So I'll tee up Roy a little bit, give a little bit of an introduction, kind of based on his MO or his reputation coming in here. is, he's kind of like a Moneyball guy for 2K. Really like had a reputation for being heavily stats driven. I think it was Liquid was the team you ran when you were in college. That kind of became one of those top pro am teams. Is that the case?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when he got the job at Mavs, we were trying to do a trade with the Mavs, and we popped on a call, and Roy came out of the gates swinging, just dropping knowledge on me, stats analysis. Here's how this works. Here's how that works. And I was like, okay, I'm impressed. I'm like, I had to do my thing. I'm negotiating on my side. So I had to point out, where I thought that perhaps some of the insights, I could argue on our side would actually be beneficial to the leverage that we had going into that trade or the assets that we were putting on the table. But it was I was like, not too many times have I gotten onto a trade call and someone who's kind of like brand new in the league from that perspective, obviously right out of college, comes in and makes as strong of an impression as he did. But you certainly made a strong impression. Obviously, in that case, we were kind of on opposite sides of the table. Excited to have you on this side of the table now working on our behalf. But I think, what would be great to hear is just like, how did it go from you and I are duking it out trying to make a trade happen and you're in Dallas to you're hired by the Toronto Raptors? Like, what happened in between over the last, year that led you here to this role?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was the people. I think you hear like I don't want to say the rumors because they're true. You hear like the buy-in, right? Culture is everything. I mean, it's esports, real sports, whatever the case may be. And you hear little things that are like, wow, like I wish I had that. I could leverage that to get something on the court, off the court, whatever it may be. I can make this ecosystem better if I have certain key pieces. And truth about the 2K League is there's a varying degree of buy-in, frankly, from every team, and it's fair. Some teams want a slice of the pizza, and they were hoping the pizza gets bigger, so the piece gets bigger. And I think at the Raptors, and something I'm very proud of, and Shane can testify to, is we want to make our piece bigger. Whatever the total size is. So, like, just seeing what the Raptors did, their capabilities. I was shout out to Mavs Gaming for giving me my first opportunity in the league. There was no slack over there, but just seeing the difference from something like fifth in partnership revenue to first in partnership revenue, and seeing how bought in the team is, the quality of staff we've got here, dedicated people that are dedicated to esports. That's frankly why I'm here, is the work ethic and ability of the people around me. Like, I literally learn something new every single day, and it's easy to say that and be cliche. It's another thing when our creative Nick has worked at like every esports organization in Canada, and as any situation we're in, I'm like, okay, like this is kind of new for me, and they're like, oh, it's not new for us. And I'm like, beautiful, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So I'd like to
shout
thank
out Nick. Nick's a rock star. Nick joined partway through last season and made a very, very strong impression on me out of the gate. And yeah, he is solid dude and great worker, very smart, very tapped in. And yeah, it's been awesome to see that team run with what we started over the last 5 years.
And from the outside looking in, I just said, I looked around, I saw Kev Franklin, who's, work ethic is unparalleled. I saw Johnny come in and make a little difference with the EA NHL stuff. And saw Nick, I could see the creative direction switch when Nick came aboard. And literally, like, transparently, I was like, man, if the Raptors could win a couple more games, everything else is taken care of. And so opportunity just kind of happened. Like Shane said, we were going back and forth, and I was really worried that when I was interviewing for this job, maybe I had been a little too gung-ho out the gate as a 22-year-old kid in a trade discussion. But Sumit, shout out Sumit Aurora, our VP here, saw something in me. We went back and forth on LinkedIn a couple of times, and a position just happened to open up by luck of the draw about, a couple months into the season. And, we were just talking, and by the end of the season, like, I knew this was a move I wanted to make if the Raptors would have me, and I was lucky enough where they would. So it's kind of the full story of how it happened.
Oh, so I bumped into you at the All-Star game, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of had a feel like you had really good energy, right? A lot of good vibes. Seemed like you're a smart guy. Obviously, you are very well spoken and stuff like that. But I got a question for you. The hell is up with some of these trades, man? Type is gone. Big Saint is gone. Break it down for me as a fan of those players in particular, how this came to be, my friend. I need to know. I'm sorry. I just need to know.
Yeah, I basically, to use a COD reference here, like, I call being 12th to 18th in this league the gulag. And why I call it the gulag is it's simple. Sometimes you get put in situations where you're not bad enough to be good, meaning you're not bad enough to have draft capital for the next year, but you're also not good enough to make the playoffs. So you're sitting here not playing meaningful basketball at the end of the season and going, well, we're probably going to have the 11th, 12th pick this year. Maybe that's not enough to land that X factor guy. The thing about Kenny, Type, and Saint last year is I think all of them are good, but 2K is so situational, right? You need the right pieces around you, and they might differ from 2K to 2K. Season 3, the center was a lot more involved than Season 4, and how are you supposed to know that before the game comes out, right? So that being said, every single one of those guys is an extremely talented player, and ultimately, I think it was our fault. We didn't have the pieces to help make them successful. In terms of situationally, we sent them to places that they had a greater chance to continue their careers at a high level than they did here at the time. And all the respect in the world to those guys. I hope to get this team to a place where we have those pieces, and maybe I can reach back out and say, okay, this guy's the final piece. But being stuck in the middle, if you will, for 2 years, and even though we made $0 last year, like we were competitive in a couple of games, that we could have won. That's really what it was. I said, okay, we got to commit to one side of the coin here. We got to rebuild, or we got to be all in and add another piece. And just some of the moves that we made last year, like no problem swinging, but sometimes you miss, and you got to be able to look at things objectively, retool, and say, all right, let's try and start afresh here, because what we've been working with for the last 2 years it just wasn't working. So I would love to get this team to a spot and be able to maybe bring Type and Saint back, but ultimately it's on us. They didn't have the pieces they needed to be successful, and the next couple of years I hope to have those pieces.
Fair enough. I can't be mad at a man with a plan.
Yeah, exactly. Now you get your chance to really put your make your mark on the roster. It'll be exciting to see what the offseason and the draft looks like. That's one of my favorite times of the year. It's always full of questions and hope, and the energy's there, and like everyone's buzzing on social because everyone's trying to be really positive and supportive, and everything gets a little boost. I mean, nothing will ever I think trump the first season when like the OG GMs came in and there was really no league level communication yet, and so the GMs were just like the source of all information, and it was a lot of like half information here and there, but it was just like juiced. And I remember some of the GMs just got their socials firing because they would kind of tweet, I got information, pop on my, it's called Spaces now, I can't remember what we were going live with back then.
Clubhouse.
It was like, no, but way before Clubhouse, young buck.
Whoa.
It was.
Oh my god!
Like,
I was junior in high school when the season was, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, what was it back then?
It's on the tip of Phil's tongue too.
Yeah, that's a good question.
There was like a live component thing built onto Twitter back then, and I can't remember what it's been killed.
Was it Periscope?
Anyway.
Periscope.
Periscope. That is
Periscope.
it.
It was integrated in Twitter. Yeah, Periscope. There it is.
Yeah, exactly. That was that was crazy, right? And then, I mean, I guess on that, it's completely tangential to the interview here with Roy, but just going back down memory lane, it's funny because I remember like the first thing that kind of broke was when the draft pool kind of came out. There was those text messages between Anthony and who's the player? He didn't end up making it in that draft, but he ended up making it in subsequent years, and I don't think he's in the league anymore. Mr. something. Do you know who I'm talking about, Roy?
Season 1?
It was, so there was this like fiasco where, not intending for it to be interpreted the way that it was. Anthony, good guy, had a great relationship with him when he was working in the league, was at the Cavs season 1 and I believe season 2 as well. Had texts between another player who didn't get in, and then they ended up and kind of said like, don't worry, I'm going to make sure you're good, kind of thing, which is really just meant like, hey, vouching for him with the league, right? And then the league ended up adding him to the roster, and then there was this whole fiasco like, oh my god, it's all rigged, look, the GMs are hand picking who they want in it, etc. Meanwhile, at the time, I mean, it really was a hand pick process. We didn't have the tournament structure that we have right now. No, it wasn't chalk, but it was, oh my god, it's on the tip of my tongue. He came into the league. He played for, I think, the Hawks. Maybe moved around for 2 seasons, and it didn't quite work out eventually, in the end. But anyway, it was funny because at that point, the 2K League was really kind of like operating almost like the NBA. It was like very, very vanilla, like PR type, messaging, addressing issues. Excuse me, and it just went crazy. Like the response from the player community was like overwhelming. The engagement was like through the roof on social, and it's amazing to see where the league has come from now, because we were all kind of like, people with esports back when we were like, listen, this is a little different than sports. You're not the NBA operating above, the fan base. Like the fan base, the player base is super interactive, super engaged on social media. You're going to have to like open up the kimono a little bit more and like show them what's going on behind the scenes, give them real facts that don't seem like we're just like kind of, wiping the slate with, a PR like announcement. So just funny to think back, just 5-6 years ago, how different things were. And, as far as a look ahead to the future, you've got Kenny, you've got pick 15, you've got pick 25 and pick 26 and pick 36. 25 and 26, I love that, because you've got two key positions you've got to fill, and you don't have to worry about who's going to take your other player in between the one that you prioritize first, right? So that's a great position to be in. What I will say, like, I think you're free to kind of talk strategy a little bit, only because I know how much things are going to change between now and the actual draft. Things change so rapidly. So, but what are you thinking right now as far as what you have going into next year's draft? Like, what are you prioritizing based on what you're seeing in the meta of the game and in the kind of the draft pool?
So I think the nice thing about having an open roster, right, is you have the ability to take the best player available, right? Sometimes the player drops, like there's a amazing, let's just say there's, making a hypothetical scenario here. Let's say there's an amazing shooting guard on the table, right? And being at 15 is a good spot to be in, because every single year there is someone that maybe should get picked in the top 10 that doesn't, top 12 that doesn't, top 13 that doesn't. And that's kind of strategically how we went about it. Is there is I wouldn't call it an artificial premium, but there's definitely a select premium in moving into the top 10 in this league. And it goes from a future first from a team that's going to be exceptionally solid to a future first from a team that might not have all the pieces. And that's just how it is. But top 10 maybe guarantees you something, but at the same time, with an open roster at 15, you really have the option to take the best player available. I'll use the 2K community's terminology for a little bit, that S tier player, right? A couple of them will fall out of the top 10 just based on need-based environments that have picks in the top 10, right? So if there's an amazing shooting guard, everybody in the top 10 has an amazing shooting guard, or has a good enough shooting guard, or even like their shooting guard that they have right now, he might be able to fall to us at 15. And us having a completely open roster, 2 through 5 or 1 through 5, that's the nice thing about the versatility of Kenny as well, is we're going to be able to add that elite talent to our roster without worrying, okay, can he play an alternate position? Because we need everything, basically.
The more I listen to people talk about this stuff, the more I realize I'd be a terrible coach. I'm just gonna say it. I'd be trying to build like some sort of super team with like a bunch of godlike players, and then like realize like the pieces don't actually fit. I feel like some people do that. Maybe I could just be talking out of my butt, but I feel like strategic wise, like you know what you're doing. Are you gonna get this team back to that almost perfect win season? What was it, season 2 or 3? Shane, was it 2 or 3? I don't remember. I can't remember
3.
which one it was. 3.
I see in the notes here that Roy's on the conspiratorial side of the community, where he believes it was all about the Bell 5 internet that season. So we'll have to duke it out on that topic right now.
Yeah. That's pretty godlike, actually. Okay,
yeah, no,
cool.
no, definitely not fully on conspiratorial side, because I think you still need to be open. But I think it's
There was
a win.
something going on. Something in the wires.
Well, I think it's. I think the team was really good, but also I still see it as a win. I think that's a big reason why I came to the Raptors, is to land. And shout out Bell Gaming, by the way. Like, I'm literally sitting in their space, like beautiful Bell Gaming Center behind me, dedicated stream room. I think having the opportunity to leverage a partnership for greater good is also like a win on the organization. Arguably, it's harder to do that if you look at the NBA 2K League than it is to, land a souped 5 in terms of on the roster. So still a win for the organization, but and you still have to get open to hit shots. I mean, if you're shooting bad shots, you're not going to win. Doesn't matter how good the internet is. But yeah, I definitely think, I wouldn't say it had to do with anything. I still think it's an organizational win. Everyone who tells me now, they're like, oh, season 3 was Bell 5. I said, okay, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Go get your partnerships team to go get a multi-tier deal with your internet provider, so you can put yourself in the same situation, right? We're a professional esports organization.
Yeah.
Internet should not be literally.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a factor. Now, the pandemic was, one of the extenuating circumstances that would have affected some teams' ability to, deliver optimal results. But I 100% agree with you. It's like, it's not only a partnerships, a testament to like good partnerships, but also testament to just like good infrastructure, good sort of technology management, engineering, whatever you want to call it, right? We spent, weeks with our technical teams in the house before the players arrived, just like setting everything up, troubleshooting it, testing it. In a sense, I see, esports programs, not to the same extent, but, you could argue in the same direction as like racing or like F1, where it's like, yeah, you need to have the best driver, but you also need to have the best car. You need to have the best engineers. You need to have the best maintenance, all that kind of stuff, right? There's a famous story. I'm going to butcher, I can't remember his name, but it's basically like the British cycling team. There's this theory of like the aggregate of marginal gain. I think I've told this before. Phil, are you, have you heard this before? Is that
I'm trying to learn, right?
You're
I
like,
have no
where's
idea
he
what you're
going
talking
with this?
about.
Where's he going with this? So there's this coach. So there's this famous story. There's a book about it. I'm sure some people potentially listening know exactly what I'm talking about, and others are like, what's he talking about? But this British cycling coach, Britain, was terrible in cycling, never won anything, and his focus was like making everything 1-2% better. And his theory was if you do that across the board and it aggregates, it will make a significant impact. So some of the examples that really stand out to me are, I know that he painted the inside of their trucks that they move their bikes in all white. And the reason to do that was to be able to easily see dirt, grime, etc. Whereas if it was like a dark inside of a truck, you wouldn't. And that's the thing that they're shipping all their bikes in. So you would get extra dirt, extra dust into the gears of the bikes, that sort of thing. They had all of their cyclers test their favorite pillow, and then they would ship the specific pillows for each of their cyclers to the city that they were having their next race in, so that he knew, because he knew how important sleep was. And you can only do so much about a mattress, but you can definitely change the pillow that someone's sleeping on. So he's got like hundreds of examples of areas where he just looked to optimize in small ways, but in aggregate, it made a huge difference. And they went from never winning anything to having like the most dominant era of cycling ever, and became, world renowned for their cycling program. So in a sense, I kind of look at esports in that way. We have way more control over that kind of stuff than you do in a lot of traditional sports. And in traditional sports, you see it as well, right? Even the Toronto Maple Leafs, they are, the poster team of the NHL, and we're known for having just the craziest medical staff, all the support staff that takes care of the players, and it's a big reason why people want to come and play here, et cetera. So I agree. I think anything like that, if it is helping the team win, I don't think it's it sort of seems something unfair necessarily, but more so something that everybody could be doing if they were simply doing it right, if they had the effort, the energy to do it. But the last thing I will say on this topic is everyone had to do these like speed tests. There was this like shared document around the league that year because it was the pandemic. They wanted to know, what does everyone have? Who's in single apartments? Who's in more team facilities? That sort of thing. And I could tell you a half a dozen teams were still playing out of their arenas in their like new kind of team facilities, and had a gig up and down. And while I'm a huge proponent of Bell 5, obviously here I use it at home. It's most, I think, elite gamers in Toronto subscribe to it. We were using like residential gigabyte internet. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, it's great, but like any house on our block, because we were in a regular house, could have had the exact same internet as we had. Meanwhile, you've got teams who are playing out of their arena facilities who are tapping straight into their like pro grade pipe that they have running into the building, completely unfiltered access, not going through any of the residential type of stuff that you might get in like a traditional modem that you just pick up at a store. So say what you will, I definitely know the Bell 5 internet was a huge factor contributing to our success, but I think the idea that others weren't on a level playing field is kind of silly, and you could just simply see it from the speed tests, and again, understanding what was going on within those buildings that season, where people were actually like in those arenas.
Damn. Logically, that kind of makes sense.
Did I argue it well?
I'm kind of like.
You think the judge would have a tough choice? Yeah, the jury would have. The jury would be out for a bit on that. Be like, okay,
maybe a tad.
Maybe it wasn't as cut and dry.
But there's another thing, Roy, that you mentioned.
Yeah. There's another thing that you mentioned, though, which is just like putting the puzzle together, kind of getting people into the right environment, right? And we see this in sports all the time, where someone's like, top prospect gets into an organization, doesn't work out, everyone thinks they're a bust, moves to another organization, all of a sudden they're hitting their potential, right? And we've seen that happen too. And I think part of it was, how well things worked with the team that year, because we had, when what went down with Juan, which we don't have to dive into, but when what went down with Juan went down, all of a sudden we had Jerry's little brother, sick one's little brother Jake, step into the lineup, and that was seen as like a charity pick initially. And I would say, and you coached both of them last year. What was awesome about them when we were here was, again, with the pandemic, I had way less access to the players. We had to get 2 COVID tests back to back clear in order to even go to the house and see them. So it was like very hands off that season, kind of doing remote coaching. But Jerry was there, kind of being able to like mentor, nurture Jake, and kind of like move him around the board almost like a chess piece, right? And I think that was a contributing factor. And then you had amazing chemistry between Timely and Kenny, and then Reese for that matter too, because they've been playing for so long together. So I guess one commonality we have is we've both coached Jerry and Jake. What was that like last year for you in Dallas?
Yeah, it was interesting because Jerry. I think Jerry is the second most traded player in 2K League history, I believe. So he brings
Really?
like a wealth of knowledge. Yeah, I think, is he first now? No, he's this. Yeah, actually, he might be first now that he just got traded to Oz. So a little, yeah, interesting fact, but like he just brings a lot of knowledge to the table. He's like, okay, well, same thing, kind of like, it's the team around you. I mean, having a strong team, whether it's in the front office or on the court, is awesome and everyone knows it's awesome. But I think the biggest thing in the world is, as human beings, we all have our limitations, right? And for me, I was 22 years old coaching a 2K League team. My limitation was experience. As I told Shane, I was 17 when the league first came. When Jerry broke in the league, I was 17. If I was a player, I wouldn't even be eligible for the 2K League draft. I'm 23 now, and Jerry would just bring a lot of experience in different situations, whereas, a fresh face, you're like, this might be the worst thing in the world to ever happen ever. And Jerry's like, no, this is pretty standard practice, man. Like, every team I've been to, stuff like this has happened. So just having that knowledge from a player side, kind of like like we all have our break glass in case of emergency scenario. And Jerry would kind of hold me off and be like, no. I know, don't break the glass yet. Like, we can handle this. And so just having that experience to play off of was great, where I could me and him had a great back and forth where it was like, I would say, okay, we got to come up stack side. The point guard in this team doesn't play defense out of his corner. And he would have the on-court implementation where he'd be like, okay, I want Kenny Zeus, our point guard at the time, to come up, reset me the ball, wrap until we get to stack side and we make that point guard play defense. So it was a good back and forth. I'd be like, this is what we have to do. And he would always have that on-court translation. So yeah, coaching Jerry was awesome. Coaching Jake was awesome too. I think what we're looking for this league is consistency, both on the court and off the court, right? You know who you are, you know what you're going to get from a coaching perspective and a teammate perspective. And Jake is the most consistent person I've ever coached, where I knew what version of Jake I was going to get every single day. I mean, maybe he's not the most talkative kid in the world, but in the team dynamic, you need people that are going to speak up. You need people that are going to follow. Both are equally important. One is nothing without the other. And I think that dynamic was something that we created and created well. And you could see it, like our back was against the wall in the ticket championship last year. And we are like, it's literally win or go home. And the guys showed up. They, one made $50,000 and sent us to playoffs. And we had a situation where we had a power forward playing lock because our lock was, unfortunately suspended at the time, and just made it happen. And I think those moments where, you're kind of, we'll call it rock bottom, if you will. You got two choices. You can stay there and things aren't going to get any worse. You can keep losing, or you can fight back a little bit. And having the guy with the experience that Jerry has let us fight back. So, yeah, definitely grateful to have coached him.
Awesome. Shout out Jerry and Jake. Yeah, two of my favorite guys I've coached in the league, and same thing, same experience, like you said. Jake every day, just so consistent, so reliable, right? That pandemic year, we had to do a lot of our own broadcast production stuff. And again, it was tough to get access to the house. You had to get back-to-back COVID tests cleared, et cetera. And, you didn't want to, some of the guys, again, they have their pre-game routines. You don't want to get in their head. They want to be kind of like left alone before the game, get in the right mindset. Jake had zero problem, getting on the little rolling pad, sliding underneath the gaming terminal that we had and like helping set up wires, like, oh, signal test isn't going right. Hey, Jake, can you test this thing? And then like popping back up and 2 minutes later, playing for however many hundreds of thousands of dollars in a 2K League tournament because we
That's
went
awesome.
undefeated with that kid in the lineup. You know what I mean? Like for a rookie, as young as he was, with the type of mentality or personality that he has, it was just amazing to watch him. He was so reliable. It was a great season. I loved having those guys on here. And Roy, I got to say, as someone who's known for my analogies, I think the group that you work with today calls them Shaneisms. I respect all your analogies. I love the break
Oh,
glass
thanks,
stuff,
man.
and I've heard
Yeah,
a bunch of
I
them
have, a lot,
throughout.
I have a lot of analogies as well. Yeah.
Yeah, we're cut from the same cloth on that front for sure.
Big time.
Roy,
Well, you talked
I see. Yeah, go ahead, Phil.
Hmm?
Yeah, you
I
go.
was gonna say, like you talked about, like all the moves and like kind of like the, I guess a lot of ambitious plays and stuff like that. Like this season, do you see the team? Do you see them as being like a playoff contender, maybe like a championship contender? Is that where you're looking to at least kind of position them back to as you try and work these new pieces in you're looking to acquire?
Yeah, so just the way I work, just the way my mind works, I have like short term, like midterm, and long term goals. And for me, for the organization, for the people around me, and so I have some like quantitative goals and qualitative goals, and mix of both. And what I mean by that is, I know where I want to be on the court, and I know where I want to be off the court. On the court, yeah, why not? The turnover in this league is crazy. The average lifespan, if you will, average career of a 2K League player is slightly over a year. So I mean, the Bucks did it. They had better picks than us. I will give them that. But the Bucks, completely rebuilt their roster in the offseason. And here's, I guess, a Royism, if you will. Like the rebuild happens in the offseason. The rebuild doesn't happen in season. Like there is no
Mm.
quote unquote tanking. And even if there is, there's no guarantee that you're going to get the first overall pick. And the Hawks got a 2.1% chance this year. So that being said, like the mentality is always to win, create opportunities of leverage, right? And if it's not 5v5, then maybe it's 3v3. If it's not 3v3, then maybe it's 5v5. But somewhere between these combinations of tournaments and infrastructures between 3v3 and 5v5, there will be an opportunity to demonstrate that we're a valuable team. And the expectation is to win somewhere and somehow, to find our identity and commit to it early. That's kind of the goal for us. And then off the court, what I see as a win is I want to be able to find that nucleus this year. I want three guys that it's so much easier with three guys or four
Yeah.
guys that you're bringing back and you're saying, okay, I'm not trying to find the X factor. I'm trying to find the fit. Like just to use Jerry and Jake's example, the reason they have such great yin and yang is Jerry sees the floor and will tell you what he sees immediately. And Jake will be able to kind of take a step back and find the implementation of that according to Jerry. And one can't work without the other, right? Someone needs to say something, someone needs to buy in. If someone says something and no one buys in, it doesn't matter. Sometimes even the wrong strategy is the right strategy with everyone bought in around you. So I think having three guys next year that, because this year it was really me. Like I came in, I got to bounce some stuff off Kev Franklin, who's awesome, Sam Pham, who's awesome, and we had very, I wouldn't say little player input, but everyone kind of knew like we had two losing seasons back to back. This is a brand new coach and GM. Like it's a natural breaking point, right? Like if they wanted to trade us, now would be the time. They got a brand new guy in charge. So I'm looking forward to having a like 3, 4 guys that I can just be like, okay, we're going in not to find the piece because we have the pieces. We're going to find the supplementary pieces where we can put people around you guys to make you better. Shane had a good example where Kenny was the MVP season 3. A lot of it was because he was comfortable playing with Timely, playing with
Yeah.
Reese. We can get him back to that level. Say, Kenny gets back to being one of the elite guards in the game. And Harris had a good quote the other day, Harris Rubenstein, where he said, Kenny's always going to give the Raptors a chance in something. And I think that same rhetoric remains. I mean, he's one of the best 2K players in the world. I think of this 2K League build, which, if this game is merely emblematic of season 3, if Kenny can play some defense, which is what Kenny's known for, is no matter what side of the ball he's on, he's going to pull up his shorts and give you some defense. We can really make some noise this year. And in terms of being a quote unquote rebuilding team, like I like that. I like being the underdog. I think it gives us a lot of opportunities when you're written off to make some quiet moves and have people maybe not pay as much attention to them.
It's awesome,
Oh
man.
yeah.
Well, obviously still very young in your career in the 2K League, but as Phil pointed out from the beginning, you got a plan, communicate super well, And I think, one of the things I always harped on, with the team and even, as I was transitioning out and leaving the keys to Kevin, the group, it was, sports, like, hindsight's always 2020, right? There is no one thing that is the right thing to do or one thing that's the wrong thing to do. As a data guy, it's all probabilities, right? And I think one of the most important things is that everyone buys in because there is a strong and clear leader, and everyone can say, hey, this might not be the plan I want to execute, but I know that this plan, if I don't buy into it, is not going to work. That's for sure, right? And so it's like, hey, there might be as many opinions as there are people in the room as far as whether this is the right direction to go or not. But regardless of that, we all need to buy in, because what will definitely happen if we don't buy in is this plan won't work, right? And so I think you've got the right ability to communicate and form that plan. And obviously, Phil and I will be, rooting for you and rooting for Raptors Uprising. And man, nothing would make me happier than to see you come in, shake this tree, and all of a sudden, pull out some tournament titles or some deep runs, or who knows what, the ceiling is for Raptors Uprising next year. But, I certainly feel like the team is in good hands, and I love to see it because I have a great sense of pride for, the years I spent there. And, I'll be a Raptors Uprising fan for life.
Appreciate that, Shane.
They sent me a hoodie, so I'm always going to be a fan.
Phil was a big merch guy in season 1. I remember
I like that.
Cornered me in the
studio.
Me in the studio. Was like, Shane, you got to get me some of that gear. I'm like, all right. So I remember, like, one trip I, like, traveled down there with, like, a whole extra bag. I was like, all right, Phil, here's some gear. Don't forget about me. And then he unfollowed me on Twitter. But
that's not how that happened, Shane. That's just not an accurate story. We'll
it's all right, Phil. I'll get you another hoodie this year. You gotta follow me on Twitter.
There you go. See, that's how you work it out.
Now all of a sudden your ratio is getting affected from the podcast. Phil's like, get me out of here. I got to get on with my day. But speaking of the devil, I don't know if you guys heard that, but my doorbell just rang, and so it is another episode of the Raptors 2K podcast where my delivery beat Phil's delivery, and it teleported up into my room. I can't wait to go devour this. While this does look like smoke and mirrors, the truth is there is actually a half and half chicken shawarma sitting at my front door right now, which is getting cold because it's freezing cold outside here in Toronto, and I'm very much looking forward to eating it. Phil, Roy, before we sign off, I guess start with Roy. Anything we didn't cover that you wanted to say or shout out or discuss?
Yeah, no, I mean, only thing I'd say, and I guess is prospects-wise, like, there's a baseline now. So I think that's why I love having an open roster. Shout out everyone season 1 through 4, because without you, it's not possible to see what works and what doesn't work, right? This is a brand new product. It's only 6 seasons old. So listen to this. You want to get into the 2K League. You want to, you're a prospect. You're just starting out, whatever the case may be. There is now a rubric to follow. Off the court value, on the court value, these things are no longer mutually exclusive. I mean, you have guys that are 13 years old when this came out that are now eligible, that have spent their whole lives dreaming to be in this position. So, follow the rubric, work hard. This thing is growing. Whoever's out there, it's a fun place to be. I never have a boring day at work, that's for sure. Either come be a fan of us, try to get in, network with us, hit me up on Twitter, whatever the case may be. We're trying to get this thing as big as we can. So I appreciate these guys for the platform and everybody else. And yeah, excited for this season for sure.
I love that.
Yeah, for sure, man. Definitely appreciate your insight and just like that good, energy and vibes you're bringing to the table. I think you're going to make an outstanding coach in the league. And of course, we appreciate you, coming through and sharing your time and information with us. What I'm saying? Me and Shane always appreciate our guests, and you have been definitely one of my favorites personally. So let's conclude another edition of the Raptors 2K podcast, again brought to you by our friends at UberEats. Shane's got some waiting on him. Mine is like en route for 2 more minutes, and then I'm sure Roy is just going to go and devour something too. But thanks everybody for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we can't wait to see you on the next one.